I'm Dr. Hastings, the moderator of today's session. I'm doing this in my capacity as the director of the Global Studies program. That's an interdisciplinary undergraduate major. And I'd like to welcome you to Georgia State's Spring 2024 Global Career Series. We have been doing this every semester for, maybe a good 5 years now. The series features folks from globally connected organizations who talk about rewarding opportunities in global spaces, either in Atlanta or abroad. And we hope you feel inspired after listening to these folks to pursue your own internship, volunteer opportunity, and even career that might be offered by these and other organizations. This series is organized each semester by the Atlanta Global Studies Center. The Center for Urban Language Teaching and Research is also involved, University Career Services, the Study Abroad Office, and finally, my own Global Studies program. Today's session is going to focus on non-governmental organizations in Atlanta. And we're delighted to bring you representatives from 3 different organizations, actually really 4. In just a moment, I'm going to ask the panelists to introduce themselves and tell us a little bit about their organizations. First, though, if we can just go over a few housekeeping items. As you just heard, this session is being recorded. So we ask that you do keep your mics muted to reduce any noise during the session. After the presentations, there's going to be a Q&A session. We have some questions that are prepared, but we also want to hear from you. So even while folks are talking, we'd love you to type your questions into the chat session at any time. And hopefully I'll be able to be multitasked enough to be able to check them out. So let's learn a little bit about our panelists. And I might as well begin with a representative from the Latin American Association, Catherine Warren.
Hi all, good afternoon. My name is Catherine Warren. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. I am our Director of Operations and Systems here at the LAA. Second to get my screen shared. Our mission is to empower Georgia's Latinos to adapt, integrate, and thrive. We've been around for 50 years. We're just over 50 years now. We celebrated 50 years in 2022. And it's a wonderful place to work. We have a variety of career paths that you can get experience in here at the Latin American Association. Social work, immigration law, fundraising or resource development, nonprofit management, business, public health, and then adult and youth education. And then a lot of different disciplines that you could be studying may touch those in various ways. And I'm happy to answer more questions later on about our recruitment needs, but I have some QR codes that I can leave up here for a little bit. We're looking for interns for both the summer and for fall and spring of next year. For AmeriCorps Vista, which is a year-long volunteer program similar to the Peace Corps, but based here in the US as opposed to being based abroad. We're always looking for volunteers at the LAA. And then I'm really excited that we're going to be able to host GSU Federal Work Study workers here at the LAA, hoping in spring. Still waiting for final approval, but I'm trying to get the word out just in case we do get that approval. So that is all for my introduction, and I can put these links in the chat as well.
Thank you very much. I might now hand it over to a representative from the International Relief Organization, Nikki Slogar. International Rescue, excuse me, Nikki Slogar.
Hi, yes, thank you. Hi, everyone. My name is Nikki Slogar. I'm so glad to be here today. Thank you so much for having me. So I am a development assistant here at the International Rescue Committee in Atlanta. To tell you a little bit about my personal journey with the IRC, I started off as an intern. I was a volunteer coordination intern first, and then I also served as a fundraising intern for a semester after that. And then afterwards, I was hired on full-time as a development assistant, which I've now been doing for 2 years. And my primary focus is to help connect our program departments, those are our direct service staff, with the resources they need to serve our clients. And one of those biggest resources is you guys, the people who are interested in pursuing mission-driven work that helps people. So our mission, the global mission of the International Rescue Committee, is to help people whose lives and livelihoods are shattered by conflict and disaster to survive, recover, and gain control of their future. In practice, that can look a lot of different ways. Since we are a global organization, there's a lot of different opportunities. On an international level, we're doing a lot of crisis response and disaster prevention. But here in America, our primary focus is refugee resettlement. We're trying to help people through every step of their resettlement journey process, providing really holistic care. So everything from when they first arrive in the country out through like sometimes 1 or 2 years after their journey, we're still supporting them with our various programs. And our numbers are only going up and up and up. We're anticipating settling about 1,500 refugees in Atlanta this year. And that number doesn't even touch on our other populations we serve, our SIVs, our asylees, our humanitarian parolees. So as those numbers are increasing, we always are recruiting for a lot of different opportunities available, careers, internships, volunteers. So we're very flexible with whatever you guys are looking for. We recruit monthly for volunteers, and our internships we recruit on a 3-semester rolling basis. We're going to be wrapping up our summer recruitment at the end of this month, but then right after that, recruitment for fall semester starts immediately. And so I can post the links for career and internships. We have an application portal that I'll link, and for volunteers, we have an email address that I can put in the chat, just so you guys know like where to go for which resources. All right, so thank you so much for having me here today.
That's wonderful. Thank you. And Nikki, as she said in the beginning, Nikki was a student who volunteered, did an internship for 2 semesters, and then she was so good they hired her. I think the same is the case for Trent, who was actually a global studies student here at Georgia State. And I'm not sure actually whether he volunteered, but Trent Tsunafuji now works for the Japan America Council. It's all yours, Trent.
Yes, hi everyone. My name is Trent Tsunafuji, and just like Dr. Hastings said, I was a Georgia State Global Studies major, and Dr. Hastings was my old director / teacher when I was at Georgia State. So it's nice to work with you again, Dr. Hastings. And yes, I do work at the Japan American Society of Georgia, and I will share my screen real quick. Share. Okay, so the Japan American Society of Georgia, if I can click, there you go, is a 501 nonprofit organization comprised of Japanese American corporations and individuals with an interest in Japan and U.S. relations. And our goal is to raise knowledge among people of Georgia about Japan, its culture, language, business, and vice versa and then also vice versa to people of Georgia as well. So just like for recruitment, like usually for internships, we need like a copy of resume and a letter of recommendation and some skill sets, maybe a proficiency of Japanese. It's not needed, but it is more recommended and likely. Also volunteering at any events. It doesn't have to be like with us at Japan Fest, but just any volunteering work would be great. And then a desire to work in a U.S. and Japan relationships. And then some career paths. Usually after the internship, people go through the JET program, the Japanese Exchange and Teaching Program, and some may go through companies that we work with, like Kubota, Yazaki, King Hawaiian, Toto, etc. And with the internship, you get through you do different skills with the internship, like event planning, fundraising, and business relations and public relations. And if you guys want to keep in touch with us, Japan American Society of Georgia, I have all these links right here, our Instagram, our Twitter, our Facebook. And if you guys are interested more about our internships, you can contact us at our number at 404-842-1400 or this link right here at jsgeorgia.org.
Well, thank you all for your presentations. That was great. Really, all of you are doing very important work. I want to ask a couple questions now, but again, I'd like to invite any students or folks who are listening in. You're welcome to chat your questions for our panelists in the chat. My first question, I think I'll go back. Yes.
Hi, I think we haven't mentioned Skyy Corral.
Oh
So
my goodness, excuse me.
yes,
Thank you so much, Ethan,
course.
because she wasn't on my radar initially. Skyy, please give us a few minutes of your time to telling us what organization you represent.
No worries, no worries at all. Thank you, Ethan. So I'm representing the RCE Greater Atlanta. My name is Skyy Corral, and currently with that organization, I serve as a global liaison. The RCE Greater Atlanta works with a network of other RCEs. RCE stands for Regional Center of Expertise, and our goals are to essentially promote the sustainable development goals and their accomplishment of such. So the RCE Greater Atlanta works with other RCEs around the world. Most predominantly, my role as a global liaison is to converse with those other RCEs and figure out what strategies are working for them and be able to create a collaborative effort, since the RCE does promote collaboration and youth promotion. So I'm glad to be here, and in the chat, I'm going to drop our website.
Skyy, I have a question. Are there RCEs around the globe or just around the nation? Is it a US run or a global run organization?
Oh, it's a global run organization. So it actually started in Japan and then it migrated to North America, but there are over 190 RCEs worldwide.
Fascinating. Okay. And again, Skyy is currently a student here at Georgia State. What year are you, Skyy?
So I'm currently a senior in my undergrad, but I'm a dual degree student in the geoscience department. So I'm completing my undergrad while completing my graduate. So I will finish my undergrad in fall and then my graduate in fall of next year.
That's great. Those 4+1 programs that Georgia State offers are really, really a wonderful opportunity. I didn't realize that geoscience does that. Political science offers a 4+1 so that you can get a master's degree in 1 year, shave off a year of your master's. That's a terrific option, and you are obviously a super achiever. So let's start our questions. I'd like maybe to ask, well, I was going to ask Skyy, but why don't I step back and I'll ask Nikki this question just to start off. When you were a new college student, that is, when you were just beginning to enter college, what did you wish someone had told you back then that would have helped you make a good career choice, even though you're only early on in your career? But I'm curious if you wish someone had told you something back when you were a freshman or a sophomore.
Yeah, of course. I think the biggest thing is just to show as much initiative as you can. Try as many things as you can get your hands on. If you're curious about something, find an opportunity for it in whatever capacity that looks for you. I know that I remember college is hard, but don't underestimate the power of volunteer activities. It doesn't just have to be an internship. Any type of community involvement is great. On-campus clubs, just the more involved you are and the broader your scope can be, the easier it is at the end of college to narrow it down into like, what is it that I actually like? What do I actually see myself pursuing long-term? And, the more extensive your resume is, that is something that we look for a lot when we're recruiting too, is not just do you have the specific skills that we need, but are you someone that has been interested in trying a lot of new things, is capable of learning a lot, has a desire to learn and grow as you move forward throughout your career? Because that's something that that's a desire that you can't teach someone. That's just something you have innately. So that's something that can really make a candidate stand out as we're recruiting as well.
Thank you. Thank you. And when I think about this question, Catherine, you're a little bit further along in your career. Considering the work that you do with specific communities, what qualities are you looking for in an applicant? And again, you have a number of different things going on in your organization, but can you generalize in any way about kind of qualities you're looking for?
Sure. Specifically at the Latin American Association, of course, we look for language skills. So it's very useful when we can have someone that speaks both English and Spanish. I would say the majority of our staff, or at least 100% of our client-facing staff, is bilingual, English and Spanish. So that's a huge skill. And then we have a lot of, native speakers here in the Atlanta area, and students, I'm sure at GSU. Don't discount your language skills, I would say. Another thing that I really look for in candidates, like Nikki said, is someone who takes initiative. That shows that you can trust someone to get stuff done. It's okay if you have to try a couple times or mess up. That happens, that's life. But I definitely look for people that take initiative, as well as people that look to get to know their colleagues and get to know what other departments do, because we really can't work together unless we know each other.
Thank you, Catherine. Actually, speaking of language, Nikki and Trent, how important is it that the student be fluent in another language? Either one of you first.
I think foreign language is definitely an essential now, or in my opinion, for a career, because companies and organizations are willing to hire people who are more fluent in another language other than other than one language, for example, like English, because people are needing to. Because for us at Japan American Society of Georgia, we not only work with English speakers like Americans, but we also work with native speakers like Japanese companies like Kubota and Toto, and we have to communicate with them. And so I think having a foreign language in your grasp is very essential.
Thank you. Nikki, what do you think for the International Rescue Committee?
I would absolutely echo. I would say it's not a requirement, but it is a massive, massive bonus. There are people in our office who only speak one language, and we value their input, but most people in our office are not just 2 or 3 language multilingual. Most people in our office are 4 to 6 language multilingual. It's incredible. I know.
How
lot
about
of really
you?
talented people.
How about
I'd
you,
say
Nikki?
like 1.5 for me. I'm on the lower end. So again, not a requirement, but a massive bonus, because when we're working with refugees and people who are coming to America, usually for the first time to create a whole new life and a whole new home, it's incredibly important to be culturally aware of where they're coming from and as welcoming as you can be. And it means a lot to welcome someone in English, but it can mean even more to welcome someone in their native language, and to show them that just because they're leaving everything they've known doesn't mean they're like leaving. They're still bringing something with them, And so it's important, I think, to connect with clients in that way, to make them know that like it's an integration, not an assimilation when they're settling here in America.
Oh, nicely put. Nicely put. It seems to me that maybe fluency is not necessary, but what you're talking about is having some familiarity with what speaking a foreign language is like. So then you can empathize, and you can also perhaps learn a few sentences for those who need a welcoming message. Skyy, I'm putting you on the spot. You're working in an issue of environmental sustainability and geosciences. I suspect you don't have a foreign language under your belt. Is that correct?
Actually, I do speak Spanish. So, my father, he speaks Spanish, and my mother, she does speak English. And then most recently, I've been actually trying to learn Yoruba, considering that my partner, is from Nigeria. So I will say, at least in my role, it does help. We've had a stronger connection with our South American RCEs and my abilities to be able to speak Spanish. But we are looking for participants that are able to speak, languages that are on the other side of the world, so more in the Europe area, the Africa area, and the Asia area as well. But I will say for the RCE, a majority of our work is done in English, but it does help for those more niche RCEs that are newer to be able to speak their language so you can create those collaborative efforts.
And, I want to just go off a little bit on a sidetrack here. I notice we have on our call a Jessica Burton who works in the Study Abroad office. And I just wanted to ask Jessica, again, for learning a foreign language is really hard. What are some ways that you think students can easily, not easily, but how can they begin the process of starting off on a foreign language?
Absolutely. So other than, taking classes and maybe adding that minor or taking additional classes while you're in school, studying abroad is a great way to immerse yourself in language learning, put yourself in an environment with other cultures. That's the fastest way to learn a language. And as the panelists have said, it's immensely helpful, makes you more competitive, opens up doors to other opportunities where, employers are looking for, candidates who have that language background. So studying abroad, absolutely, it can give you exposure. It can put you out there. Many employers are looking for hands-on experience. So you're not new to this. You know how to adapt. You know how to work with other cultures. And so, yeah, study abroad. It's an opportunity that's available to you while you're an undergrad student, and you can definitely take advantage of it.
Anybody else in the panel have an experience with study abroad? I think, in fact, many students think they're going to do study abroad, plan it, and then all of a sudden the 4 years are over and they never did. Anybody on the panel do a study abroad?
I did. I did a summer semester in Spain. But even I found like that's not really enough to fully immerse yourself. And then when I finished college, I volunteered for about 8 months in Peru. So
Ah.
that's really where I solidified my language skills. I lived with a Peruvian family. I worked with Peruvians at NGOs in Lima. And I had to get myself around, talk to taxi drivers. In Peru, you have to tell the bus driver like that you want to get off the bus. So you have to yell like, let me off. So you have to learn pretty fast.
Very nice, very nice. No, I think you really, sometimes it's frightening, but you can just arrive in a country and find a situation, volunteer or paid, that can really help you to integrate in the community. But if a student can't study abroad, perhaps they have a family, perhaps other things get in the way. Do any of you have any suggestions what students can do instead to prepare to work with international populations?
So I do have a suggestion for you all. If you're more in the science and the research, there's something called an REU. So basically that's an undergrad research experience that you can go on. Now they range anywhere from like 4 weeks to maybe 3 months. It's a lower commitment than an entire semester, but allows you to go to these foreign countries to do research. So if you have more of a scientific background, I do recommend that. And then just as well, something that I have been looking into is joining the Peace Corps. So that may not be during your time in college, but it could be afterwards. And most often you'll be placed in other regions of the world where you're able to fully immerse yourself in those environments to learn a language as well.
Thank you, Skyy. Actually, Jessica, I got to put you on the spot again because Jessica did the Peace Corps, didn't you, Jessica?
Yeah, sorry about that. I was just plugging study abroad in the chat. I did do Peace Corps, and actually I'm a Georgia State alumna. And after I graduated, I went on to do the Peace Corps, and that's how I know that with the volunteer experience, that's really where I got my language learning. With Thai, it was absolutely essential to navigate the community. And yeah, it's a great, great experience if you have 2 years that you're willing to reserve, but it leads to amazing career opportunities. And it really, really is a rare experience that you can learn more about and see what options are out there, and they're always recruiting.
Thank you. Thank you. So I'm looking for some questions from, or comments, well, no, questions from the audience. We got a really big audience today. Lots of you folks. Please put some stuff in the chat session so I don't have to regurgitate my old questions that I made up already a couple years ago. I'd love to hear from you guys. But why don't we cycle back to actually the tangible steps that students can take while still in college to improve the chance of landing an internship or a future job in the organization? We talked about taking foreign language, perhaps. What else? And then there was this vague thing about taking initiatives, not to, Nikki said vague, and I mean, Nikki said initiative, and I don't want to downplay that, but any other tangible activities that you can suggest to students that worked for you, perhaps? Who should I call on?
I
Nikki,
think
Nikki kind of
it's-
waited. Oh, Catherine, good,
Oh,
yes.
sorry. I think it's important to like take advantage of whatever opportunities may be in front of you. I was a student at UGA, and at that time we had Spanish conversation hour, French conversation hour. That's probably a possibility at GSU. We have that at the Latin American Association every other Wednesday, a Spanish and English conversation hour. And then really any involvement that you are doing in college can be put on your resume and show, you know, certain character attributes, job attributes that you could bring with you in an interview.
Thank you. I think that's very helpful. I hate to answer my own question, but I have a really, as soon as I asked it, I realized that one of the things I noticed that students at Georgia State don't do enough is reach out to faculty and kind of use them in an instrumental way to try to network. Faculty tend to be very busy with their own work, and you tend to think that you shouldn't bother them, but we're getting paid to help you guys. So it's our job to help students navigate these moments. And I want to encourage all of you to think very instrumentally. Find a faculty person with whom you're taking a class and decide that you want them to be your mentor, and go to office hours with them, ask them questions, engage with them. Not only can they help you navigate perhaps and get a job, but they can also write you a recommendation. And a faculty can't write that recommendation unless they have a few conversations with you. And I wonder whether Skyy, you've had that experience.
So in more colloquial terms, I call it my professor besties. So I have two. So Dr. Visaji, she's the undergraduate director of the geoscience department. I love her. She encouraged me to join this major. I originally was a bio major, but I changed to geosciences. She offered me an entire list of societies, internships, and organizations that I should get more involved in. And then more as I progressed through my curriculum in geosciences, I met Dr. Milligan. Dr. Milligan has been amazing. He was the one that introduced me to RUs, and then just as well, the Seesaw grant is which I'm hoping for my grad school to be paid for and funded by instead of being a TA. And then just as well, he is the graduate director, so that does assist in my applications to grad schools, both at Georgia State and other universities as well. So I definitely agree, make yourself a professor bestie. I enjoy taking their classes a lot, and most certainly they have encouraged me to continue the work that I'm doing.
Nikki, it looked like you were thinking of saying something. I might have cut you off.
Oh, no, no worries. But yes, I do. My biggest piece of advice I'll start with professor besties. I would say yes, absolutely. And I'll add on to that. It doesn't just have to be like a professor from a class you're taking. My biggest mentor in college was actually the leader of the community organization group. I never took a class from this person, but I led alternative spring break programs while I was in college. And the leader of that organization was like my biggest mentor, the person that I talked to the most, and the person who I asked to write most of my recommendation letters, and the person that I still talk to sometimes when I need career advice. Also, this sounds deceptively simple, but make sure you write down everything that you're doing in college, every type of engagement, every type of outreach, every type of involvement. Write it all down, because I have a lot of friends who would, do a one-time volunteer experience in their freshman year and then delete it off their resume in their senior year. Don't delete. Have like a master list resume with every single thing you've ever done. And then it should be like over a page. And then when you are applying to jobs, you can cut that down and pick out whatever are the most relevant experiences to show that job. Like, these are the most things I have that apply to you specifically. And also, I would say within that, once you get a position, an internship, a volunteer, or something like that, keep another list, like a master list of all of your biggest accomplishments within that. Because that can, when you add it to your resume, become your job description points of like, this is what I've done, this is what I've accomplished, these are the things that I'm the most proud of. I still do that for my performance review every year now in my career, and it's incredibly helpful. So I would write down for sure.
Very important.
Nikki, you just nailed that really well. I think the what we usually call that's the difference between a resume and a CV. So the CV is where everything goes from the very beginning. And then, as Nikki said, when you're applying for a job, you pick and choose the stuff that you think is important for the job you're applying, but you don't ever lose track of all the interesting things that you've done. Once when I was, I guess I was in grad school, but I hadn't yet finished. I was in a master's program. I was applying to International Business Machines, IBM Corporation, for a job. And I happened to mention that I play the oboe at the end, extracurricular stuff that you play the oboe. And I don't know why I put it in there. It turned out the person who was reading the resumes was also an oboist, and that's the only reason why I got an interview. So sometimes those little things really, I'd even encourage people to consider those extracurricular things that don't really matter. If you really feel a passion for them, if you include them, they can often make the difference. Catherine, did you want to add to that, the resume CV issue?
I just completely agree with Nikki. It's very important to make sure you're keeping a record of everything.
Yeah. Yeah. Hey, so I wanted to know a little bit about the degrees that you expect students to have. So we have students from a lot of different programs and majors. Skyy's geoscience and Trent was global studies. What kind of degree do most people have? And if that doesn't make sense, are graduate degrees important in your belief? And maybe I'll start with Catherine.
Sure. So I would say we have two more major career tracks that we definitely would require the degrees, which are social work. So plenty of GSU BSW students have started their social work career here at the LAA. And then we also have MSW students that have started their careers here as well, or done internships here. It's really great for us to have that partnership with the School of Social Work, because they are required to complete an internship within their field of study. Human services could also fit under that umbrella, and then our immigration services department, of course. I wouldn't say everyone needs to have a law degree, because we do also train people up on certain skills, but it's definitely helpful to have some kind of legal or pre-law background, or some kind of prior experience in a legal field. But other than that, I would say there's opportunity for all kinds of fields, or all kinds of majors. For example, I studied anthropology and international affairs. I have colleagues that studied marketing, colleagues that studied applied linguistics, colleagues that studied computer science and data analytics. So plenty of different fields that you can kind of get experience in and then come to work with us.
Thank you. Thank you. Trent, you're a recent graduate, but do you have a sense of whether your global studies major was at all effective?
I think for me, I think my global studies major was very effective, especially all the classes that I took up to the internship and graduating. It felt like what I learned from my classes applied to where I am today. But kind of like as Catherine has said, I have colleagues who are applied linguistics and other majors like actually I have one colleague who used to do art as her major, but she she was an intern before me, and now she works at a different work. But for Japan American Society of Georgia, we accept all different backgrounds of majors. It's just the desire of wanting to work with US and Japan relations that's very important to us.
Do any of you think, and maybe I'll ask Jessica this someone who has a little more of a distance, do you think a graduate degree is, how important is a graduate degree, a master's degree in the work in careers today?
Sure. I think having a graduate degree is absolutely important, especially in this growing like competitive job market. Some positions you cannot even secure unless you have a graduate degree. So for example, so I don't have a graduate degree and I've been interested in foreign service, and you cannot be a foreign service officer unless you have a graduate degree. And so I think, as I said, like certain positions, it opened doors to certain positions, and some it doesn't. You're not even eligible if you don't have a graduate degree. So I think it just demonstrates your, academic prowess in a sense, and your ability to kind of keep going and strengthen your skills academically before entering the job market. So I do think it's very essential.
Where do you think you would get a graduate degree, speaking for yourself? No, in what kind of, when we're talking about graduate degree, what are we talking about? Should it be in the same field that you got your undergraduate degree? How do folks know how to maneuver that graduate decision?
Well, I think you gave some really great advice to students, which again, I didn't do, which is to kind of take on a mentor at the university and really, talk it out, speak about it, what direction you're trying to go in and what would be the best degree to have in that field. I think sometimes, as the panelists have said, as long as you have something that demonstrates your global competency or awareness, it will be kind of open up opportunities either way, whether it's applied linguistics or global studies. But I think that, if you take on a mentor, really talk about the possibilities and look at the careers that you're interested in and see what, somebody mentioned LinkedIn in the box, see what people who have the positions that you would like, what did they major in, what their career path was. That gives you some really great insight into what directions you can go in and where you should go.
Thank you. Thank you. Nikki, I suspect with you being 2 years out of college, you also don't have a graduate degree. Can I ask you, what direction are you thinking of?
For me, it's a big matter of balance. You are correct. I do not have a graduate degree, and as of right now, I am not planning to get one. I've taken maybe a little bit of an atypical path. Through the organization I work with, the International Rescue Committee, we have a really strong, robust list of available professional development opportunities. And many of the people I work with have such full capacity that they can't always jump on as many of those professional development opportunities. But most of the people I work with do have grad degrees. Now, for me, I'm not looking to pursue one. So I spend a fair amount of time just balancing my workload and scheduling to make sure that I can jump on as many certification courses, as many professional development things as I possibly can. I go to more than most people in my office, specifically because I don't have an interest in pursuing a graduate degree. So I would echo, yes, they are absolutely important. They're not the only route, but you do need to kind of make sure that you achieve a balance, because to make yourself a competitive candidate when you're trying to advance your career.
The takeaway that I like to argue for is that it almost doesn't matter what you get the graduate degree in. It as Catherine says, you end up with a higher pay, and as Jessica said, they tend to think of you as someone who's interested in pursuing knowledge and improving yourself, whether it be a graduate degree or the certifications that Nikki spoke about. But I also would really encourage most undergrads to step back and wait a little bit, unless of course you're Skyy and can double it up and get a master's before you're even out. But look around, get a job. Sometimes if you're lucky enough to be in a for-profit company, they'll actually pay for your master's degree. Sometimes that can happen. There's no hurry to get that master's. But I also, frankly, am looking around and seeing that the master's is kind of the new undergraduate degree because of competitiveness in the field. It's a little bit of of an exaggeration because there are lots of folks who don't have it, but nevertheless, you should keep it in your back mind. We have a very good organization called CASA. I can't remember what CASA stands for here at Georgia State Center for some advancement in the study of academic. I have no idea, but it helps students navigate pre-law, pre-med, and pre-PhD, pre-masters. Thank you, Skyy. So let's move on, and I'd love to ask about this term global competence. I think Nikki mentioned something about being able to be sensitive to other cultures. But when you hear the word global competence, how do you describe it? And how do you know when somebody has it? Who wants to take that on? Global competence. Skyy, do you want to try that? That seems like it's unanswerable.
So for global competence, my background, my mother was in the military, so I moved around a lot. So I've lived abroad. So it was initially a culture shock when I lived in Germany, whereas people were more secluded. I mean, it's called like the American smile, where when you see a stranger, you smile at them, and like that cultural difference and not taking it as something negative, but that's just the culture that you're in and being respectful of that. When you are communicating with different people from different areas of the world, they may have different mannerisms or different actions that you may see something to be as negative towards you, but it's not necessarily that. So I would say global competence is the understanding that although your cultures may differ, just because they differ doesn't necessarily mean it's anything bad towards your culture or how you act. It's simply just a change in something that you should be able to adjust to.
Interesting. Catherine, do you have a different take?
I think with global competency, it's about kind of getting out of your comfort zone and creating bridges across cultures. And that doesn't necessarily have to be like bridging, different ethnicities or different like political states. It can be, bridging communities in your own neighborhood, in your own backyard. Because it's really just understanding like who you are in your community and how you affect others, I would say.
Very interesting. I like that. And Nikki just posted very interesting piece of information. The availability of scholarships, especially for folks who are working in nonprofit areas. And absolutely, there are a lot of national scholarships. That's wonderful. Congratulations to that colleague of yours. Again, graduate school can be expensive, and I really encourage folks to try to avoid that additional expense. Most of you who were on the Hope Scholarship thankfully didn't incur a lot of debt for undergraduate, but if you can help it, try to get graduate school through a scholarship or some other way.
And then I'll add, Laura, that AmeriCorps and Peace Corps, when you complete your terms, there usually is an education award associated with completing your terms. And it's not like a huge award, but it's more than nothing, you know?
Absolutely, that's right. I'm a big fan of AmeriCorps simply because it doesn't take that big as much of an investment as the Peace Corps.
Mhm.
Again, AmeriCorps is a newer organization. The Peace Corps, obviously started after World War II, and it's been around a long time. AmeriCorps was a more recent initiative that brings students to parts of the United States that need additional teaching. A lot of it is teaching, but Catherine, what are your AmeriCorps folks
So-
end up doing?
Our AmeriCorps volunteers are under a program called VISTA, or Volunteers in Service to America. And this program actually started under President Johnson.
Oh, so it is.
It's
Sorry.
but it wasn't called AmeriCorps at that time. So, it really focuses on helping organizations build capacity to become more sustainable. So, for example, my AmeriCorps volunteers this year, one of them is helping us kind of build out our organizational communication strategy, both internally and externally. And then she'll leave us with her project that we can refer back to, build upon. And then another one of my AmeriCorps volunteers has built a data system for us. I'll be hiring for AmeriCorps positions in August, one to build out an ESL curriculum, one to build out an outreach strategy. So lots of different ways to go with the projects. And the great thing about AmeriCorps, again, is, you're based in the US. You get a stipend. It's not a lot of money by any means, but if you're willing to put things on hold for a year, get experience for a year, if you're able to live simply or live with your parents, that's very, helpful. It's a little something extra in your pocket. And then when you complete your term, you can get an extra reward in cash or towards education. And then all of our AmeriCorps Vistas here at the LAA, they get great exposure. For example, like me, I was actually an AmeriCorps volunteer here at the LAA. So I came back from Peru. I wanted a way to keep up my Spanish. And that is where I started. And I've been able to grow my career here at the LA, but also be exposed to different opportunities along the way.
Thank you. Very interesting. So I think we're going to have to begin to wrap up. I do want to ask you each one last question, which you maybe haven't been able to prepare for. It's a little bit of just struck me as I see the group of you. And Skyy, I'm probably going to ask you to be first again. Sorry about that. Which is, you're all kind of young in your career. You've just started off. Where do you see yourself moving to next? Or where do you see yourself in, say, 5 years, if that's a reasonable timeline? I just want to kind of get a sense for where you see your own trajectory. Skyy?
So my trajectory, of course, after the completion of both of my degrees, I'm currently doing an undergrad research experience in Costa Rica studying seismology. So I would like to do that undergrad research experience and then be invited back for the years following, and then hopefully be granted a full-term position with the University of Costa Rica to study seismology. So that's one route I would like to go. But something that I initially thought of back when I was in high school is I would love to work for the US Department of Agriculture. It's not very well represented by women of color, so I would like to change that notion. And then I was born in Texas. My family did have a ranch, so it is something I'm familiar with. So not only on like the farmer level, but on more of the political and governmental level, I've had internships and positions where I've been able to work and liaise with people from the Department of Agriculture. So either one of those routes would be great. But just as long as I'm able to support people and the environment, I'd be happy either way.
Thank you, Skyy. Very nice. Trent, can I put you on the hot seat next?
Yes, sure. Um, let's see. I think, well, I'm enjoying what I'm doing now as program coordinator at JSG, Japan American Society of Georgia, for a bit. I mean, I really enjoy it, but I have no idea really. Like, I've always thought I've always wanted to do US-Japan relations, and this has been a great first step for me to go through a US-Japan relations career. I might stay with my organization for a year or two, but then after that, I'm not really too sure, to be honest. I might want to do, other opportunities like JET program, the Japan Exchange Teaching Program. And we offer
Teaching English abroad. Teaching English abroad is
abroad.
tomorrow's session at 1 o'clock. We're going to be doing a session on that. So that makes
okay.
sense. Yeah.
Yeah.
Nikki, how about you?
Yeah, I'm kind of in a approaching sort of a transition period in my career right now. I've started on as an assistant, and I'm really looking to stick with the IRC and grow my career here. I just recently received an offer for a promotion to a specialist role, and I'm in the process of negotiating that. So I know that the next step for me after that would be starting to look at a coordinator role, which is kind of just working my way up the ladder. I'm thinking that I probably want to stay in the department I'm in right now, which is resource development. It's kind of like the behind the scenes support staff work, acquiring all the resources that help our direct service staff do the work with the clients. I thought for a while that I might want to transition to something more program facing, more direct client services, but I've come to realize that for me, I'm not sure. It is just an incredibly emotionally taxing role. And I think where I think I might serve best might be something a bit more removed from direct client services, because you get to hear the most incredible success stories, but you also hear the hardest stories of struggle, which I just think would be something difficult for me personally. So I'm looking to stay in resource development and just work my way up the ladder. I would also like to get more on the field experience though. The IRC is always, we're always recruiting for some sort of like 2-month program where you can go out and be on the field and help our clients more directly. And I would like to do something like that in a more like short range capacity, but I also don't particularly want to go to an active war zone. So I'm keeping my eye out for like when there's the next natural disaster. I'd like to go out to the field and try and provide some aid.
Thank you very much. And Catherine, to finish us off. You're muted.
I think that in the next 5 years, I would like to have started a grad school program. And I'll leave it simple like that because I'm not really sure exactly what that looks like.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. To finish off our session, I just want to alert you all, if you can see my screen, which is that on Friday we're doing a, I have the wrong, that is too bad. I have the wrong slide pulled up. We are having a symposium on Friday that is going to sort of bring together all the activities that the Atlanta Global Studies Center has been engaged in for the whole year. And here I think we have the right one exactly. Thank you very much, Ethan. We hope, we're very interested in having students as well as faculty join us. The title is Language of Sustainability in the Global South. And as you can see, it's going to be on the Georgia Tech campus, and there's all sorts of interesting panels going on. You do have to register, but they do have a nice set of breakfast and lunch if you do stay on for those in the area of climate change, migration, public health, and language education. And on that note, again, you do have to register, but we'd love to see you. On that note, I'd like to thank all of you for joining us for today. Please, if you have any comments or questions, please reach out to me or to the Atlanta Global Studies Center. We'd love to get some feedback on what you thought about this about this session.